It's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I am Gino Buccola alongside Alexa Zepp. Producers Rich and Mike pulling the strings behind the scenes here. Alexa, I'm pumped. I got a little bounce in my step because this is a super Saturday preview show that we have. And we have a ton of action. This is probably going to be one of the busier shows that we've ever had. There are 4 Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend. On this show, we're going to talk about 3 of them. We're going to talk about 3 Kentucky Oaks points prep races. We'll have another show this week on Friday where we get into international racing from Dubai. So, I mean, if you're a horse racing fan, these are the weeks that we absolutely love.
Oh, yeah, it's jam-packed. I'm here in Lexington, Kentucky, which it's opening weekend for Keeneland, which we live for here. And, I mean, like you said, there's 4 races to get into the Derby. There's only 5 left this year. So these are the last chances.
So remember, this is sort of like what we've been just seeing in March Madness. These are the teams that are trying to qualify to get into the tournament. So this is their last opportunity. This is Keeneland. It is opening weekend at Keeneland, but we do have to mention, Alexa, I know you're there. The weather forecast does not look great for this week.
I kid you not, like 2 minutes ago, I was hearing the dystopian tones blared over the whole city for storm watches and take shelter. So yeah, we're having a rough week weather-wise. So it's gonna be probably a pretty wet track.
Well, let's meet the field for the Bluegrass. This is going to go as race number 10 on Saturday, April the 5th, over at Keeneland. The number 1, River Thames, he has really good form overall. He's run 3 times. He's only lost once, and that loss came in the Fountain of Youth when he was defeated by a neck by Sovereignty. And we just showed you Sovereignty is one of the top horses in this group. I don't really have anything negative to say about him, Alexa. I think he's one of the horses to beat. I expect him to run a big race.
I do too. I think he's going to want to be a part of the early pace. I have all the same sentiments. You know, there's nothing negative to say. I like River Thames in here quite a bit.
Yeah, major players, saves ground from the inside. I guess my only question would be, do they want to go to the lead with him? It probably fits best if he sits like 3rd and lets maybe Owen Almighty and East Avenue go and carve things out, and he might be able to sit a great trip right behind them. River Thames, major player.
He's also getting Irad Ortiz for the first time. So who's a, fabulous jockey.
The number 2, Render Judgment. I just got to see him get a little bit faster, Alexa, overall. I think he's run some okay races, but when you're just kind of comparing his form to each of the others in here, it just doesn't seem like he's quite at their level yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's garnered some points at 3 different Derby preps at all tracks east of the Mississippi, but he just doesn't have enough to get into the field yet. He got 2nd in the Virginia Derby, but was 7 3/4 lengths behind the winner. So they're just trying to push him over the edge and get him in the field.
2 months ago, if we would have been doing this prep race before right after the Holy Bull, Burnham Square would have been right up the top of the Kentucky Derby list. He was a major, major player after his Holy Bull win. And it shows you how quickly things change, because in one kind of poor effort in the Fountain of Youth. He feels like a forgotten horse, kind of an out of sight, out of mind horse. He didn't even run that poorly that day, Alexa. He finished 4th, but he's just going to have to move forward now. He was trending in a upward trajectory. Now he's kind of going the other way. We just need to see more rapid improvement from him.
Yeah, we do. And he's got 30 points right now. So he doesn't need to win. He needs to just be in that top 5. We kind of put the threshold around 40 points to get into the Derby field. You know, Brian Hernandez Jr. jockey is taking him out for the first time. And this horse has won on the lead and from off the pace. So he has tactical advantage in here. But you're right. It was a disappointing effort in the Fountain of Youth after our big high hopes after the Holy Bowl.
Next horse is really interesting to talk about, and you can kind of hit on this from an owner's perspective because you're a part of ownership groups and you own horses. Owen Almighty won the Tampa Bay Derby, and before the Tampa Bay Derby, his trainer had already said he is not going to run in the Kentucky Derby because we don't think that will be best for our horse. It's probably going to be too far for him. It might be something that impacts him negatively. But then he wins the Tampa Bay Derby, and it seems like his owners have kind of caught that Derby fever now. They might be using this race as a prep for the Kentucky Derby. So I guess those are two different conversations. But in this race, do you think Owen Almighty fits with this group?
I mean, yeah, look, like if you have a chance, if you have a horse that might be able to make the field in the Derby, I think from an owner, and I would think from a trainer standpoint, unless you have a serious concern about like the health and safety of the horse, or you don't think can handle the distance. I mean, you take the opportunity. That's what you live for,
Yeah.
even just for the experience, right? Like going and experiencing having a horse in the Derby. So I think they're probably going to want to put him on the lead in this race out of the gate.
Yeah. And my concern with this particular race is, Alexa, Owen Almighty, Tampa Bay Derby winner. Right next door to him is the number 5, East Avenue. He was one of the best horses last year as a 2-year-old, but in his last 2 starts, he was disappointing in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We can give him an excuse that day. He had some legitimate trouble. He didn't get out of the gate well. Then in the Risen Star, he was sitting in a pretty good spot in his first start of the year, and he just didn't really have any response when the real running started. So what do we do with him in here? He puts the blinkers on. I feel like he's at least going to be a speed horse here.
Yeah, they're putting the blinkers on. I mean, and that's what we've seen before. He wants that lead, and I agree you could give him an excuse in the Breeders' Cup, but I've lost faith. The future pools have lost faith. He used to be the second choice at 11-1 in the Derby Futures. Now it's sitting at, I think, 38-1 in the most recent. So he's going to need, I think, a second place finish in here maybe to get the job done and get to the Derby. I'm fading him.
Chancellor McPatrick, the number 6, him and East Avenue were basically the 2 best horses last year for the bulk of the 2-year-old season up until the Breeders' Cup. Chancellor McPatrick didn't really run all that well in the Breeders' Cup, but in his first start of this year, he bounced back with a good performance, Alexa. He was second in the Tampa Bay Derby, and that was the race for him to kind of shake off some of the rust. So I expect him to run pretty well in here, maybe bounce back with one of his bigger efforts. What do you think about Chancellor?
Yeah, he was second in the Derby, but he really never challenged the winner in there, Owen Almighty, which, is the 4 showing up again in here. I think they're going to try to sit behind the pack and make one run at the end. I have put him in my top 4, but I put him 4th.
And then rounding out the field is Admiral Dennis, who goes out for trainer Brad Cox. We saw him get a horse qualified last week with Tappan Street. Do you think Admiral Dennis can hit the board in here or can make some noise?
I think they're going to try to get him better out of the gate this time around. He's got a number of fast works, which I think show they're trying to get him really sharp and ready for a quick, speedy effort in here. But no, I'm not using Admiral Dennis.
Alexa, and talking with you a little bit, it sounded like you were going to go to the inside there with River Thames and tell us about your selections.
Yep, I'm going River Thames over Burnham Square, and then Owen Almighty and Chancellor McPatrick. Yeah,
lots of similarities for us here. I think the 6 is kind of an interesting horse. You might be able to get a little bit of value on Chancellor McPatrick in here. I do think River Thames is the horse they'll all have to beat. And then what happens with those speed horses with Owen Almighty and East Avenue? Maybe it could set up for Burnham Square. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll stick at Keeneland, but we'll go to Friday. We'll talk about the fillies in the Ashland.